I died choking on my own blood, the metallic tang flooding my mouth as the pavement rushed up to meet me like an old, unforgiving friend. The last thing I saw was my father's face, twisted in that fake concern he wore so well, leaning over the edge of the bridge. His voice a distant echo screaming my name as if he gave a damn. But I knew the truth. He'd pushed me, not with his hands, but with every lie he'd buried in our family's rotten foundation. And now, as my vision tunneled to black, I swore on whatever scraps of soul I had left that if God or the devil gave me one more shot, I'd drag him into the light and watch him burn. Waking up isn't supposed to feel like this, like your skull's been cracked open and stuffed with razor wire, every nerve screaming in protest. I gasped, my chest heaving as if I'd just surfaced from a drowning pool. But instead of the cold asphalt or the murky river below, I was staring at the vanity mirror in my childhood bedroom. The one with the chipped edge from when I was 12 and threw my hairbrush at it after Mom's funeral. My face from 3 months ago, stared back at me.
Emily Hale.
25. Wide-eyed and alive, with a faint scar on my chin from that stupid skateboarding bet with Jake in high school. Not the broken shell I'd become. Not the one with hollow cheeks and bruises from nights I couldn't remember. What the fuck? The words tumbled out in a whisper, my voice cracking like it hadn't since puberty. I gripped the edge of the dresser, knuckles whitening. As flashes hit me, the wedding, the slap, the isolation that followed, the bridge on that rainy October night. Dad's hand cracking across my cheek in front of 300 guests, family friends, business associates, the cream of Chicago's elite, all frozen in their tuxes and gowns like wax figures at a society auction. I'd called him out right there, on the dance floor, microphone in hand during the toasts. Accused him of killing Mom. Not in so many words, but enough to make his mask slip.
And he'd slapped me. Hard. Publicly.
The kind of humiliation that doesn't wash off. After that, the family closed ranks. My brother, Landon, the golden boy, whispered in my ear that I was unstable, that the grief had twisted me. Dad's lawyers buried the evidence I'd scraped together, emails, bank records hinting at payoffs after Mom's accident. They called it a car crash. But I'd found the skid marks that didn't match, the witness statements that vanished. I'd been so close to blowing it open, to proving he'd staged it all to cover his embezzlement from the family firm,
Hale Enterprise.
Mom had discovered it, confronted him, and poof, rear-ended on Lakeshore Drive. Her little Audi mangled like tinfoil. They'd pinned it on her distraction, but I knew.
God.
I knew. And then the bridge. I'd gone there to think, to breathe. But the texts from unknown numbers, threats, really pushed me over. Stay quiet, or you're next.
Dad's doing.
No doubt. Or Landon's. My own brother, who'd stood by and watched as Dad rewrote our history, turning me into the villain for daring to question the sainted widow act.
But now
I was back. Heart pounding. I glanced at the date on my phone, July 15th. The wedding was in 3 days. Landon and his fiancée, Sophia, perfect, plastic Sophia with her trust fund smile, were set to tie the knot at the Palmer House, Chicago's crown jewel of ballrooms. 300 guests, a string quartet, caviar towers tall as my regrets. This time, I wouldn't crumble. This time, I'd rewrite the ending. I spent the first hour pacing my room in that oversized University of Chicago hoodie, the one Mom bought me for my graduation. My hands shook as I pulled up the hidden folder on my laptop, the one I'd stashed in the cloud. Thank God. Because if this rebirth came with my memories intact, maybe my digital ghosts were too. There they were, the PDFs of Dad's offshore accounts. The forged autopsy report I'd bribed a med student for. The voice memo from Mom's phone. Timestamped the night before she died. David, if you touch that money, I'll go to the board. Our children deserve better than your greed.
Greed.
That was Dad's gospel. Hale Enterprises wasn't just a logistics empire, it was his kingdom. Built on shady deals with Chicago's underbelly, union busts, kickbacks from port officials. Enough dirt to bury a lesser man. But Dad, David Hale, was Teflon. Charming at fundraisers, ruthless in boardrooms, and at home, a father who hugged you with one arm while plotting your erasure with the other. Mom had been the glue, the moral compass, until she threatened to expose him. Then she was taken in a tragic accident. Landon, ever the heir apparent, had inherited Dad's blinders along with his corner office. Or worse, his complicity. I slammed the laptop shut, adrenaline buzzing like cheap espresso. Revenge wasn't a plan, it was a fire in my veins. But I had to be smart. Last time, I'd charged in half-cocked, microphone blazing, and ended up with a red handprint on my face and a one-way ticket to family oblivion. This time, I'd play the dutiful daughter. Smile through the rehearsals. Let them think I was broken, pliable. Then, on the stage, during the toasts, when all eyes were on us, I dropped the bomb. Not just accusations. Proof. Projected on the goddamn Jumbotron if I had to. First,
Though.
I needed allies. Or, at least, insurance. I grabbed my keys and slipped out of the family mansion on the Gold Coast. The summer air thick with Lake Michigan's humid promise. The streets of Chicago hummed, horns blaring from cabs. Tourists snapping pics of the bean downtown, but I felt untethered, like a ghost haunting my own life. I headed to Jake's place first. Jake Riley, my ex from college. The one who'd stuck by me after Mom died until I pushed him away in my spiral. If anyone would believe my crazy theories, it was him. A public defender now, with a nose for bullshit and a heart that still skipped for me. If his drunk voicemails were any clue. He buzzed me up without a word, opening the door in boxers and a faded Cubs tee. His red hair a mess.
Ain't
Shit. You look.
you.
What's going on? Rehearsal dinner's not till tomorrow. I stepped inside, the scent of his crappy instant coffee hitting me like nostalgia.
Jake.
I need your help. And you can't ask questions. Not yet. He eyed me, that crooked grin fading into something serious. You're scaring me.
Hale. Spill. So I did.
Not the rebirth part. That sounded like a Lifetime movie on bath salts. But the rest, the files, the suspicions, the slap I knew was coming. His jaw dropped as I showed him the docs on my phone. Jesus.
Eminencia.
This could put your dad away for life. Embezzlement. Manslaughter? Why didn't you go to the cops before? Because last time, I caught myself. Because I was scared. And alone. But not anymore. He pulled me into a hug then. His arms solid.
Familiar.
You're not alone. I've got your back. We'll get this to my boss. Build a case. But the wedding? You sure about crashing it like this? Crashing?
Nah. I'm invited.
And this time, I'll make sure they all hear the encore. We spent the afternoon plotting. Jake had contacts, a PI who'd tailed Dad for a cheating scandal years back, a tech guy who could hack the venue's AV system. By dusk, I had a USB drive loaded with irrefutable evidence, timelines,
wire transfers,
even a grainy dashcam clip from a trucker who'd seen the accident but been paid off. Enough to turn the Hale name from gold to ash. That night, back at the mansion, I played my part. Dinner with Dad and Landon in the sunroom. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the yacht club.
Dad.
Silver Fox handsome at 58. Swirled his scotch. Eyes twinkling like he owned the world, which, in his mind,
he did.
Emery, darling, you seem brighter. Therapy helping. Therapy. His idea after Mom. As if pills could fix a murdered mother. I forced a smile, spearing my salmon. Yeah,
Dad.
lots of breakthroughs. Landon, across from me, all pressed khakis and easy charm, raised his glass. To family. And to Soph. Can't wait for you to meet her folks properly.
Eminencia.
Sophia. Blonde. Bubbly. Daughter of a real estate mogul Dad was wooing for a merger. The wedding wasn't just love, it was leverage. I clinked glasses, my mind racing. To family, I echoed. And under the table, my foot twitched, itching to kick the whole charade over. But patience. 3 days. I'd wait. The rehearsal dinner was a blur of forced laughter and floral centerpieces at RPM Steak, Chicago's CNBC steakhouse. Sophia clung to Landon's arm like a Vineyard Vines accessory. Her bridesmaids, sorority sisters with spray tans, giggling over champagne flutes. Dad held court at the head table, regaling the party with tales of Hale's latest shipping contract, as if we weren't floating on a sea of laundered money.
He said quiets,
Nursing a gin and tonic. Watching them. Landon caught my eye once, mouthing, "You okay?" Like he cared. Last life. That question had been the start of his gaslighting. You're imagining things. Dad loves us. But love?
Nah. Control. And tonight.
I saw the crack in his facade, a flicker of unease when Dad mentioned the prenup clauses tying Sophia's inheritance to Hale stock. After dessert, as the group spilled into the lounge for cigars and cognac, I pulled Landon aside near the restrooms. The hallway smelled of aged leather and money. Bro, we need to talk. He sighed, loosening his tie.
Ing.
If this is about Mom again, it is. I leaned in, voice low. I know what really happened. The payoffs. The witness. And I know you helped cover it. His face drained of color. Blue eyes, Mom's eyes, widening. What the hell? That's insane. Dad said you were getting better. Stop. I grabbed his wrist, nails digging in just enough. I found the emails. You to the lawyer. Make sure Emery stays out of it. You sold me out.
Lan.
For what? A bigger office? His approval. He yanked free, glancing over his shoulder. You're drunk. Or delusional. Mom's death was an accident. Let it go.
Eminencia.
For the wedding. For us.
Us.
There was no us anymore. There is no us. Not after Saturday. He stormed off, leaving me in the dim light. Heart hammering. Seed planted.
Now.
Let it fester. Friday blurred into prep hair trials, dress fittings, the manic energy of a North Shore wedding. Sophia's gown arrived from Kleinfeld's, a meringue of silk and Swarovski that cost more than my student loans. I zipped her into it at the bridal suite, her reflection beaming in the mirror. Emery, you're the best sister-in-law ever. Landon's so lucky to have you in his corner. Sister-in-law. The word stuck like gum on my shoe. Last time, I toasted them with tears in my eyes, hiding my rage. This time, I smiled, pinning a stray curl. Luck's got nothing to do with it. Soft. Blood's thicker. She laughed, oblivious. But as I stepped back, my phone buzzed. Jake. PI confirmed. Dashcam's legit. AV hack set for the toast. You ready? Born ready. Saturday dawned muggy. The kind of Chicago summer that clings to your skin like regret. The Palmer House lobby buzzed with arrivals, limos disgorging aunts in Chanel, uncles with Rolexes glinting under the crystal dome. I rode up in the elevator alone, my emerald gown whispering against my legs. It was Mom's favorite color. I'd chosen it deliberately. A ghost in green. The ballroom was a fever dream of opulence, ivory drapes cascading from 70-foot ceilings, orchids imported from Thailand, a dance floor polished to a mirror sheen. 300 chairs flanked the aisle, name card scripted in gold leaf. I slipped into my seat up front, between an empty spot for Dad and Cousin Marla, who was already tipsy on mimosas. The ceremony was mercifully short, vows exchanged under a chuppah of white roses. Landon beaming like he'd won the lottery. Sophia's veil a halo of illusion. I clapped on cue, my smile ablaze. But inside, a storm. Every I do echoed the lies they'd all swallowed. Dad's eulogy at Mom's funeral, swearing she'd died at peace. Landon's silence when I begged him to dig deeper. The family's collective shrug, more interested in the will than the truth. Then, reception. String quartet sawing through Pachelbel's canon as guests milled, caviar spoons clinking against crystal. I dodged small talk. Emery, you've grown up. How's the firm treating you? Nursing a flute of Veuve while Jake texted updates from the shadows. In position.
Signal me when.
Dinner plates cleared. The MC, a smarmy DJ with a man bun, took the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, a few words from the family before we hit the floor. Dad first. Of course. He strode to the stage like Caesar. Tux impeccable. Voice booming with that Midwestern baritone. What a day, Landon. My boy. You've made me prouder than any deal I've closed. Sophia. Welcome to the Hales. We take care of our own. Laughter rippled. Glasses raised. He paused, eyes scanning the crowd, landing on me with a wink. And Emery. My fierce little fighter. Couldn't do it without you.
Fierce. Right.
The crowd turned, expectant. I felt their gaze like spotlights, hot and unyielding. Last time, I'd waited for my turn, seized the mic after his toast, blurted the accusations in a haze of hurt. Chaos ensued, the slap, the whispers, my exile. But not today. As Dad stepped back, clapping Landon on the shoulder, I rose. Smooth.
Deliberate.
The MC waved me up. Emery Hale, the bride's new sis. And I ascended the 3 steps to the podium, heels clicking like countdowns. The mic felt cold in my palm, feedback whining softly as I adjusted it. 300 faces blurred into a sea of judgment. Old money, New scandals. All waiting for the punchline. I leaned in, voice steady as steel. Thank you,
Dad.
for that. Touching sentiment. A chuckle here and there. Polite. Landon. Sophia, congratulations. You've built something beautiful here. A family, right? That's what we're all chasing.
Nods.
Smiles. I could feel Dad's eyes boring into me. Landon shifting beside Sophia.
Good.
Let them squirm. But families? They're not built on pretty speeches. They're forged in truth. The kind that hurts. I paused, letting it sink. Whispers now, like dry leaves. 3 years ago, my mother died. They called it an accident. A tragic crash on Lakeshore Drive. She was distracted, they said. But I know better. Dad's face hardened, a vein pulsing at his temple. Landon half rose. Not now, but I pressed on, thumbing the hidden button on my bracelet. Jake's signal. The Jumbotron flickered to life behind me, not the slideshow of baby pics and vacation snaps, but my files. Blown up. Undeniable. Bank statements glowing red with illicit transfers. The dashcam footage rolling in grainy glory, a black SUV swerving into Mom's lane. Plates tracing back to a hail shell company. The autopsy addendum. Circled in yellow. Brake lines compromised, non-accidental. Gasps rippled through the room like a wave. Sophia's hand flew to her mouth, and Aunt dropped her purse. Dad lunged for the mic. This is absurd. Emery's grieving. She's. But I held firm, voice cutting through. Grieving? Try furious. You killed her. Dad. To bury your theft, millions siphoned from the company Mom built with you. And Landon? He knew. Helped you pay off the witnesses. Emails don't lie. The video looped, the SUV's taillights vanishing into the night. Chaos erupted, chairs scraping, voices rising in a cacophony. David. Is this true? From Uncle Ray? Red-faced. Call security from Sophia's father, already dialing his lawyer. Dad grabbed my arm. His grip iron, the same hand that would slap me last time. You little bitch, he hissed, breath hot with rage. You'll ruin us all. I twisted free. Microphone still live. Ruin? You did that years ago. Mom deserved justice.
And now?
So, do I. Security swarmed then. Suits parting the crowd like Moses at the Red Sea. But not before Jake emerged from the wings. Badge flashing, he'd looped in the feds that morning. Wire ready. David Hale. You're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, and vehicular homicide. Cuffs clicked. Dad's empire crumbling in real time. Landon bolted for the side exit. Sophia wailing in her meringue. Guests filming on their phones. Tomorrow's headlines writing themselves. Heiress exposes tycoon father at lavish wedding. As they dragged him away, his eyes met mine, not fury now, but something worse.
Fear.
Real. Bone deep.
Emery. Why?
Because blood isn't thicker than truth, I said. Soft enough for only him. You taught me that. The room spun into frenzy, sirens wailing outside. Champagne flutes shattering underfoot. I stepped off the stage. Legs jelly, but alive. Truly alive. Jake caught me at the edge. His hand warm on my elbow. You did it.
Eminência.
It's over.
Was it?
As confetti rained from the sabotaged cannons. Harmless now. Poetic. I scanned the wreckage. Sophia fled with her family. Landon vanishing into the night like the coward he was. The Hales, undone by a daughter's ghost. But me, Emery Hale, reborn. I'd lost a family, gained a reckoning. And in the ashes, freedom tasted like the sharp bite of victory. The fallout hit like a Chicago winter, swift, brutal, and without mercy. By Monday morning, the Sun-Times splashed my face across the front page. Wedding crash. Daughter accuses mogul dad of murder in shocking toast. Grainy stills from the Jumbotron looped on CNN. Pundits dissecting the Hale dynasty's implosion with the glee of vultures at a kill. Hale Enterprises stock tanked 40% before the opening bell. Board members scattering like roaches under a flicked light. Dad, hauled to the Cook County lockup, his mugshot making the rounds, that silver hair disheveled, eyes hollowed by the flash of reality. I holed up at Jake's walk-up in Wicker Park. The kind of place with creaky floors and a view of the L train rattling by every 15 minutes. It smelled of takeout lo mein and possibility. A far cry from the mansion's sterile marble. My phone buzzed nonstop, reporters. Distant cousins virtue signaling sympathy. Even a producer from Dateline sniffing for an exclusive. I let it ring, curled on Jake's sagging couch with a beer sweating in my hand. You okay? Jake asked for the 10th time, padding in from the kitchen with 2 bowls of ramen. His concern was a bomb, but it chafed too, like I was still the fragile girl who'd shattered on that bridge. I took the bowl, steam curling up like unanswered questions. Define okay. Dad's rotting in a cell. Landon's ghosted. And I'm here. Not dead. That's something. He sat beside me, thigh pressing warm against mine. You saved your mom's legacy.
Eminencia.
Exposed the rot. That's more than okay. Legacy. The word twisted in my gut. Mom's legacy was quiet strength, charity galas for women's shelters, board seats pushing ethical reforms at Hale. She'd married Dad fresh out of Northwestern, full of that post-grad optimism, thinking she could temper his ambition. Instead, she'd become collateral. I'd replayed her last voicemail 1,000 times in my head. Emmy, honey, don't let him break you. Fight smart. If only I'd listened sooner. But rebirth wasn't a mulligan. It was a loaded gun.
And now,
with the trigger pulled, the echoes kept coming. That afternoon, a knock rattled the door, not the pizza guy, but Cousin Marla, teary-eyed in yoga pants and a Bears hoodie, clutching a bakery box like a peace offering. Emery, it's me. Please. We need to talk. I cracked the door, chains still latched. Marla looked wrecked, mascara smudged, her usual Botox smooth forehead creased. What do you want? Autograph. She winced.
Fair. But
the family's falling apart. Uncle Ray's calling an emergency board meeting. They want you there. As the whistleblower.
2.
Salvage something.
Salvage.
Like I was the maid mopping up Dad's mess. Tell them no. Tell them to lawyer up.
Ing. Come on.
This affects all of us. The trusts. The properties. Fuck the trusts. My voice rose.
Raw.
Mom's dead because of Dad's greed. You all knew whispers. Ignored them. Now live with it. She shoved the box through the gap. Cupcakes from Alliance. Mom's favorite. For old times?
Please. Just.
Think about it. I slammed the door, the chain rattling like laughter. But as her footsteps faded down the hall, doubt crept in.
What now?
I'd torched the bridge, literally and figuratively, but where did a phoenix land? Back to my junior analyst gig at a rival firm? Crawl back to therapy? Pretending this was closure? Jake watched me from the couch.
Silent.
You don't owe them shit. I know, but did I? That night, insomnia clawed me awake at 3 a.m., the city lights bleeding through the blinds. I slipped out to the fire escape, the metal cool under my bare feet, and lit a cigarette, a habit I'd kicked in college. But screw it. Smoke curled into the night, carrying ghosts. What if I'd been wrong? What if Landon wasn't complicit? Just scared? What if exposing Dad painted me as the villain? The ungrateful daughter unraveling a titan? By dawn, resolve hardened.
No.
The files didn't lie. Mom's blood was on their hands, and I'd washed it clean. But revenge? It left a void. I needed purpose. The board meeting was set for Wednesday at Hale's Loop headquarters, a glass monolith piercing the skyline like Dad's ego. I showed up unannounced. Jake at my side in a borrowed suit, his public defender card granting us entry past the harried receptionist. The conference room was a war zone, empty chairs where execs had bailed, coffee rings staining the mahogany table, a whiteboard scrawled with damage control bullet points. Uncle Ray, Dad's brother, paunchy and perpetually damp with sweat, rose as I entered.
Emery.
God.
Kiddo.
You look strong.
Strong.
I'd take it. Let's skip the hugs. What's the play? They laid it out. Bankruptcy looming. Feds circling with subpoenas. Sophia's family suing for breach after the wedding imploded. They needed a figurehead, me, to testify. Spin the narrative. The brave daughter who saved the company from her father's sins, Ray pitched, eyes gleaming. We restructure. Rebrand. Hale 2.0. I laughed. Sharp and ugly. You want me to be a redemption arc? After years of looking the other way. Aunt Lydia, perched like a sparrow, piped up. We didn't know.
Eminencia.
Not really. Bullshit. I slapped the table. Jake's hand steadying me. The bonuses from those consulting fees? The vacations on yachts Dad couldn't afford? You profited. Now pay. Negotiations dragged. Threats of lawsuits. Pleas for mercy. By lunch, I'd inked a deal. 51% control of the restructured firm. Assets liquidated to a victims' fund for Mom's causes. My silence on the family's lesser sins. In exchange, they ousted Ray. Installed ethical oversight. It wasn't justice, it was chess. I'd play long game. But as we left, elevator descending, Jake whistled low. You just became CEO of a sinking ship.
Eminencia.
You sure? Not CEO. Steward. Mom's way, not Dad's. That evening, a text from an unknown number. We need to meet.
El.
Landon. My traitorous heart skipped. He was holed up in a dive bar off division. The kind with sticky floors and neon promising cheap highs. I found him in a corner booth, nursing a whiskey neat. His wedding ring gone. Face gaunt under the Bud Light glow. Sis. He didn't stand, just slid a glass my way. You destroyed everything. I sat, uninvited. You destroyed Mom. Don't play victim. He deflated, rubbing his temples. I didn't know. Not at first. Dad said it was an accident. That she swerved. Then the money. He pulled me in, Said it was to save the company. For us. Us.
I spat.
You chose him over her. Over me. Tears welled, real ones. Or good acting. I was scared.
Eminência.
28. Fresh MBA. Dad's shadow everywhere. He promised it'd stay buried. Then you started digging. And you threatened me. The text from that night on the bridge. Or was that him? He flinched. Both.
God. I'm sorry.
After the wedding, your speech, I ran. Hid at a buddy's in Milwaukee. But seeing you up there. You were right. I was a coward. Part of me softened. The old bonds tugging. Brother.
Blood.
But the scar ran deeper. Sorry doesn't bring her back.
No.
But this might. He slid an envelope across the table, yellowed. Sealed with wax. Mom's letter. Dad hid it in his safe. I cracked it after. You know. I tore it open, hands trembling. Mom's script. Looping and elegant. My darlings, if you're reading this, I've lost the fight. David will say accident. But no, he tampered. For the money. Protect each other. Love always. Elena.
Tears blurred the ink. Proof.
Final.
Aching.
Why now? Because you're the Hale we need. Not him. Not me. He stood, tossing cash on the table. I'm enlisting. Marines. Start over. Tell Sophia. I'm sorry. He walked out into the rain-slick night, shoulders hunched.
Gone.
I sat there till last call, the letter burning a hole in my pocket. Forgiveness? Maybe someday. But trust? Buried with Mom. Weeks blurred into a grind, depositions, pressers, the slow autopsy of Hale Enterprises. Dad's trial loomed, his lawyers spinning tales of a grieving widower's mistakes. I testified, voice steady, laying out the web, the bribes, the sabotage, the slap that broke the silence. The jury, blue-collar folks from the South Side, didn't buy the charm. Guilty on all counts. 25 to life. No parole. Landon shipped out to Pendleton. Letters sparse but sincere. Sophia divorced him quietly, her family salvaging what they could from the merger's corpse.
Me?
I rebuilt. Renamed it Hale Legacy Fund, funneling profits to women's advocacy, road safety reforms.
Jake and I.
We danced around it, late nights turning to mornings, his laugh chasing shadows. One crisp October evening, anniversary of the bridge, I stood at the railing, wind whipping my coat. No jump this time. Just release. Mom's urn, ashes scattered in the waves below. I did it.
Mom.
Smart. A gull cried overhead, and for a heartbeat, I swore I heard her. Proud of you, Emmy.
Reborn.
Redeemed. The Hales endured, not in marble halls, but in the truth I'd carved. Winter clamped down on Chicago like a vice, the windy city earning its name with gusts that howled off the lake and rattled my office windows in the repurposed Hale Tower. I'd gutted the top floor, ripped out Dad's ego wall of awards, installed skylights to let in light instead of lies. Now it was open plan, buzzing with grant writers and activists, not suits scheming mergers. The Legacy Fund was thriving. Ironically, donations poured in from scandal schadenfreude types, corporations virtue-washing their ledgers. Mom would have hated the hypocrisy, But she'd have loved the impact. Shelters rebuilt. Scholarships for girls like me, once lost. 6 months post-wedding. And the scars itch less. Jake had all but moved in. His law books stacked beside my ledgers. Our mornings a tangle of coffee and quiet confessions. "You're building something real," he'd murmur into my neck. Post-run sweat cooling on his skin. Not just revenge. Revenge. The word lingered. A half-smoked cigarette. I'd won the war. Dad caged. Landon exiled to desert drills. The family's facade shattered like cheap crystal. But victory tasted bittersweet, laced with what-ifs. What if I'd confronted Dad privately? Spared the spectacle? What if Mom's death had been truly random, and I'd torched innocence? Doubts festered during long nights. When the city slept and my mind replayed the tape, the slap that never landed, the crowd's gasp morphing to applause in my dreams. Therapy helped Dr. Voss. A no-nonsense shrink from Hyde Park with a South Side drawl. Rebirth isn't linear. Emery. You died metaphorically long before that bridge. This, it's resurrection with teeth.
Teeth.
Yeah. And they ached. The twist came unannounced. A manila envelope slipped under my door on a sleet-lashed February morning. No return address. Postmarked Milwaukee. Inside, a USB drive and a note in Landon's block print. Found this in Dad's old files. Changes everything. Forgive me?
El.
Jake was at court, so I plugged it in alone. Heart thudding like bass from a passing L train. Folders bloomed on screen. Schematics. Emails. Blueprints. Not just embezzlement, industrial espionage. Dad hadn't just stolen from Hale, he'd sabotaged competitors, rigging bids with hacked data from a mole in the FBI. But the kicker? The mole was Mom.
No.
My stomach lurched. Elena Hale. Whistleblower? The files painted her as the architect, feeding intel to Dad for protection, then flipping when conscience hit. Her accident? Not murder, but suicide by proxy. She'd confronted him. Yes, but with a gun to her own head, staging the crash to expose him. The letter I'd kept? Forged? A final act of misdirection to shield us kids from her shame. I retched into the trash bin, bile burning. All this time, I'd avenged a ghost who haunted herself. The slap at the wedding? Dad's rage not at accusation, but at the mirror I'd held, his wife's betrayal mirroring his own. I drove to the prison that afternoon, visitation room sterile as a morgue. Plexiglass smudged between us. Dad shuffled in, orange jumpsuit hanging loose on his frame. The fight leached out. He picked up the phone, eyes dull. Emery. To gloat, I held the printouts to the glass, his gaze sharpening. Tell me, was she?
Part of it.
Silence stretched, broken only by the hum of fluorescence. Then, a nod slow.
Defeated.
Your mother. She was brilliant. Started small, feeding me tips to keep us ahead. Thought it was games. Then the feds got close. She panicked. The crash. She did it.
Eminencia.
To take the fall. Protect you and Lon from the indictments. Why didn't you say? And be the villain? Better she die as saint. Me the widower.
But you.
You saw through it. A ghost of a smile. My fierce girl. I pressed palm to glass. The cold seeping in. I destroyed us for nothing.
No.
His voice cracked. First time I'd heard vulnerability. You destroyed the lies. That's something. Visitation ended too soon. Guards herding him away. I sat in the parking lot, sleet tapping the windshield like accusations, until Jake's call pulled me back.
Hein?
Where are you? Tell you later. But as I drove home through slush-choked streets, clarity cut through the fog. Nothing? Bullshit. Mom's choices didn't erase mine. I'd exposed a cancer, saved the company from itself, built from ruins. The twist didn't undo, it deepened. She wasn't victim or villain, just human, flawed as me. Landon came home on leave in April, buzzcut and sunburned, meeting me at Mom's grave in Graceland Cemetery. Cherry blossoms dusted the stone. Her name etched simple, Elena Hale. Beloved mother. He hugged me awkward, all elbows and unspoken sorries. I was wrong, he said, kneeling to lay a marine issue flag. About everything. But you. You made it right. We sat till dusk, trading stories, not accusations, but truths. Mom's laugh over Thanksgiving pie. Dad's rare bedtime stories. Fractured family. Mending crooked. By summer, the fund hit stride, a gala at the Art Institute. Donors toasting Hale legacy without irony. I took the stage, no mic this time. Just words. This isn't about blood or betrayal. It's about choosing better. For her. Jake proposed that night. Under the bean's mirrored curve, ring glinting like promise. Marry me.
Eminência.
Build with me. I said yes. Tears salting the yes. Reborn. Again, not from death, but from ashes we stoked together. Dad passed in custody a year later.
Heart attack, they said.
Natural causes. I didn't mourn the man, but the father he could have been. Landon walked me down the aisle at our small wedding, City Hall. Then rooftop barbecue with Jake's rowdy clan. Proud of you, sis, he whispered. Like Mom. And in quiet moments, when doubt whispered, I remembered. I died once, choking on lies. Lived twice, spitting truth.
No regrets.
Just forward, fierce and free.